This week's episode of the Investors Corner, unsurprisingly, is concentrating on Jeremy Hunt's budget. So, diving into the main topics, there were 2 or 3 main takeaways, both positive and, unsurprisingly, negative tax grabs on emerging markets. So, how does that affect you, landlords and property investors? Let's take a look and see.
So, Mike, Andy, it is the 8th of March. We are filming this a couple of hours after Jeremy Hunt's speech. You have to get that
get that correct.
Really careful on camera. And in this episode of the Investors Corner, we're going to chat about that, talk a little bit about property management, and then Mike's got a secret topic for us as well that we're going to talk about. We hope.
Looking forward to that.
Because Mike's not feeling so good today, so we're going to see what we can pull out of him. So
you've got 10 minutes to think about it.
But first of all, Andy, let's talk budget from Jeremy Hunt. What do you think is the big news that appealed to you on that? What's your thoughts? Anything that kind of jumps out?
Well, we've got the stamp duty reduction, so from 28% to 24%. So that's
capital
gains tax. What did I say?
Stamp duty.
Oh,
I was like,
capital
wow,
gains
that
tax.
was going to be a great podcast. That's some expensive stamp duty.
Capital gains tax. So that's a positive.
Yep.
So that's something good that's come out of it. The rest of it, not really positive, really, if I'm honest with you, for landlords anyway, especially those with sort of holiday rentals, short-term rentals, because they're taking away the furnished, the tax relief on that furnished lettings. So it's another negative for
holidays,
for holiday lets. I think the reason why they've done that is obviously because they're trying to reduce the amount of holiday lets, so those rentals go to local people for long-term rentals. So I can see why they've done it.
Do you think they're going on a bit of an Airbnb attack?
Yeah, I think so. It's sort of set up for that. And like I said, I totally understand, because local people in the local area need those long-term rentals, because we've got a supply issue at the moment within the rental sector. So we need to free up more homes. But yeah, it's just another attack on people trying to rent properties out, really, isn't it?
It might end up, if you're not dealing with holiday lets, it might end up helping, I guess, the tenants. You've got to think the tenants in that area, they've got people coming out of the area to rent properties in their hometown, and they want to see them available for them, I guess. And at the moment, tenants are happy to pay the big price. So it's difficult, isn't it? Because if you are that landlord and you had that little bit of a tax haven on that potentially, or a tax saving at least, then now maybe you might be more tempted to just go with the security of just putting a normal tenant in there, which helps them. National insurance changes for people at certain price bands of earnings. If you earn 150 grand a year, you're going to be £754 better off. Woohoo!
Nice.
There you go. If you earn 35 grand a year, you're going to be £449 better off. So if you are one of those people and you want to start getting into property investment with that saving, we know a place. What else have I got on here? Some other taxes that will be going up. Some of the local councils, they've got serious financial pressures. So they're leading
I
to...
think you can cover with all councils rather than some. The note that we got from our local council was, we're in a hole. Essentially. So yeah,
and I think they're looking to maximise the percentage that they can put everything up by, aren't they? So it's going to go as much as they can, rather than sort of before they've been realistic and flexible. But yeah, it looks like a lot of them are in the hole. So yeah, gonna have to shell out more money for that.
Nothing crazy, was there? I think they're saving it maybe for the election, if there is going to be a big property related.
I thought that this was going to be the election budget, but I'm not 100% sure. I think that the capital gains tax drop is a good thing, because they've been pushing landlords towards an exit door, but it's been expensive to exit. So landlords are stuck between a rock and a hard place. At least now, if you want to exit, if you've made £100,000 profit on your property, which is not inconceivable, that's a £4,000 saving. Obviously, absolute fag packet maths, because you've got loads of things you can write
Yeah.
off against your profit. But say you've made £100,000 after all of the incentives, it's dropped by 4%, and that's quite a big chunk on a 24% tax. It's not as big a chunk as our corporation tax went up by this year, but it's a decent swing the other way. So at least it's a nod to say we know we've screwed landlords out of the market, so we're going to let them exit without really, really pulling their pants down. So I think that could have been worse, because I've seen for years people predicting that property capital gains could be matched to normal income tax levels. So ramping it up to 40% was a rumour for a while.
Yeah, which would be horrible for people to see on the exit for what they've done in their hard work. It's hard work being a landlord, especially over the last sort of 10 years. And if you've seen those gains, you want to see, and you've already paid tax on the earnings and the money that you put into it, and then you're paying tax monthly now, obviously, on the rent and that aspect of it as well. To then get hit on the exit, it's almost looks impossible. But to make that a little bit more appealing, that's good, especially for the big equity gains that we've seen over the last 3 years. So it doesn't help tenants, because it might mean there's a few people that look at that and go, right, I've got a kind of 8 to 12 grand saving there that I'm going to capitalise on, which would be interesting to see how many people actually take acknowledgement of that. But overall, obviously there's all sorts of bits that we don't need to cover on this podcast that have gone in, vaping and ISAs and the fuel duty cut to be extended and stuff like that, but not really our place to chat about it on here. But at the same time, I wonder what comes next. Any ideas, Mike?
No.
Andy?
Were you expecting more from this budget for the housing market? So we'll be expecting things like stamp duty, things on that to make it easier to get the market going more, or will we? Because I didn't really know what to think about this budget. There was so many things.
The last two have been, in fact, maybe even the last three have been really quiet, haven't they? Since Liz Truss and Kamikaze Kouazi dropped the bomb on the UK. So maybe the Conservative government have thought twice about bringing in big things because of what happened there, and now it's just allow things to tick over, allow things to repair slowly but surely, rather than bring in these massive stimuluses that we've had in the past, like stamp duty, holidays, or help to buy schemes, which can and do overly falsely inflate markets, which cause a problem later on down the line.
We've said just leave it alone.
Yeah.
It's pretty good out there at the moment. Properties are selling, properties are coming to the market, buyers are active, mortgage offers are coming in, more desktop valuations are getting done again.
Prices are stable.
It's quite interesting, actually, because I've got a buyer buying a property through Halifax, and the same property, unfortunately, was under offer to both times a buyer selling a flat, and they lost their buyer. So this is the third time it's been sold. This is a third mortgage offer that's come on it. And the two that were done at the sort of back end of last year were full valuers came out from the lenders. But Halifax, this house has not been sold for 50 years. But Halifax just went, desktop, we're up with that.
Right.
Which wasn't the case last year. So that's quite interesting. There's obviously a bit of confidence there from the banks, etc. And and to answer your question, I thought maybe there might have been something done on. I didn't think these 99% mortgages were going to come to life, but I did wonder whether they were going to drop something in around that, whether they're going to do something on a 5% deposit or a 95% mortgage, just after teasing that a little bit, that would maybe help some of these tenants that are struggling to find accommodation, appeal to some of the tenants out there that are seeing rental prices go up or not be able to find at all. I did wonder whether that would be somewhere they would capitalise, but they haven't at this stage. So overall, budget was relatively boring. But how's things?
I can't wait for the emergency podcast title.
but it's happened, and we're reporting it. I would love to get everyone's feedback. What about property management so far this year? I know you had a good catch up with Pooja. I spoke to her earlier on today. She said really busy at the moment. Just interested to know, through the eyes of a landlord, contractors, tradies, has that eased a little bit? Are they a bit easier to get hold of and get booked in? Because the last 3 years they've been bonkers busy.
Yeah, do you know what? It's probably around a couple of hours, 24-hour turnaround to get contractors in now, especially decorators, electricians seem to be freed up more.
That was like a
Plumbers
week at one point,
It
right?
was a week.
Yeah.
But yeah, the electricians that we use seems to be going in there the next day. So yeah, it's definitely eased, definitely easier to manage, which obviously has a positive effect for the tenants as well as the landlord's property, because we're getting things done sooner rather than later, keeping everyone happy. So yeah, it's improved. It's good.
And when I spoke to you the other day, you said of the new properties that we've rented out recently, there's a fair bulk of those are actually moving abroad, the landlords as well.
Yeah. So the conversations that I'm having now don't seem to be going that way. They seem to be UK based, but and a couple of people that I've spoken to about going overseas, they've changed their plans.
Okay.
Changed their plans now. They're no longer doing that. Few had a few job offers that have fallen through, but yeah, overall, it's you've still got landlords that want to rent properties despite of what's being said in the media. So again, it's all pretty positive, really. It's just getting people to make decisions sooner rather than later. You still got people out there that still are sort of 50-50 on what they want to do, because they're waiting for something to happen to them financially in regards to interest rates or something like that. So it's just pushing them in the right direction and saying, look, just do it. What you're waiting for is probably not going to happen this year. You've told me that you need to get out this year. Let's go and do it now and get it sorted. So yeah, positive conversations,
So
no negative ones.
This 3% stamp duty additional for a second property or for another property, on what you were just saying there, I just wonder whether there's a place to look at people that are doing let to buys rather than buy to lets. That's something that has always interested me. If let's say I'm moving abroad, not moving abroad, so I'm moving out of area, or I'm in a position where I can keep hold of the family home and buy another property. To do that, obviously, you're going to then pay the big stamp duty tax on the new purchase, which typically would be an upsize. Or if you're moving out of area, you want to keep a bolt hole in the family location, but you're going to Wales, you're going to the coast, you're going into London, you're going wherever. But I just wonder what your thoughts are on that, because I get, if you live in a family home and you're looking to buy a buy to let as an investment, you're going to buy a 2-bed house, for example, you have to pay a tax penalty for not being a first-time buyer for buying that as an investment. But if you're doing a let to buy and actually moving home to keep hold of that property, they do feel like two different things to me. And I just wonder whether that's something that, through this much listened to podcast by MPs, we could visualize and manifest into being a thing. What do you reckon?
I've got quite strong opinions because I did a let to buy before they added the additional stamp duty. I'd lived in a 2-bedroom flat and we bought a detached house and were able to keep the flat as an investment. And I saw it as a really positive move for me and us as a couple as we were, because we were going to buy a family home and move on. Move forward a couple of years, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that because I was buying a detached house and I'm paying the extra 3% on the detached house. Whereas if you flip the tables on it, really, I'm changing my main residence from the flat to the house. So shouldn't I be paying the additional stamp duty on the flat?
On the flat,
because
at
that's the
market
one
rate.
that's being added as a second property, not my new home. My home is my home. Because if you already own 2 properties, which last year I did, I still own 2 properties. I sold my family home and bought a bigger family home. I didn't pay additional stamp duty because I was trading in my family home.
Yep.
So maybe the tax is wrong. Maybe you should pay additional stamp duty because you are taking another property out of the housing stock and into rental, and it becomes an investment and blah, blah, blah. But should you not be paying tax on the property that is going to be rented? Andy looks confused. I've lost him.
I'm just trying to work it out in my head.
Yeah, if you're upsizing, in Mike's case, from a 2-bed flat to a 3-bed house, and as a buy-to-let investment, you'd have to pay tax on the 2-bed flat if you were living in the 3-bed house. Flip that, you're doing a let to buy. If you do that, you would have to pay stamp duty tax on the family home, which is where it feels a little bit unjust. But the reason why I mention it is I just think that seems to be more common in the last couple of years, that people are trying to do the let to buy, but they seem to be penalised for it.
People used to do it all the time, and then it stopped in its tracks.
Yeah.
Went dead. Didn't see a single let to buy for years.
Yeah.
And then it slowly creeped back in as people have got used to it. But in our area, if you're buying a 4-bed detached at 800, 900, £1 million, yeah, you've got to have the income to be able to sustain that. But an additional 25 to 30,000 pound stamp duty, is that's a pretty cold cup of sick to swallow.
Yeah, it just seems silly because you're going to sell the flat, get caught in a chain, buy the house, and then if you wanted to do it, you then have to buy the flat back or buy another flat as a buy-to-let to make it tax efficient.
You can do it that way for the stamp duty.
Yeah, it just seems a bit crazy. And in terms of the valuation, to get the stamp duty on the one that you've done the let to buy on, well, if you're selling a shared ownership property, you just get a brick surveyor out, get an actual, chartered valuation done on it, and that's good enough for the housing association. It should be good enough for a solicitor to say, right, you're paying stamp duty on that upon exchange of X, basically. But just wondered what your guys' thoughts were on that.
That's my theory on it. If you can send it to the MPs,
I'll send Rishi a tweet.
Response. Yeah,
I'll send him a tweet. See what he's saying. Thoughts on, as we end Q1 of the property market in 2024, thoughts going into Q2, which is typically quite a busy quarter, for tenants moving, for people moving out of property, for buyers, for sellers, just before we hit those school summer holidays. It's normally quite busy. What's the expectations in the sort of rental market for next quarter? Much of the same, something different? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, we're coming into the months now from April onwards where it starts to get busier. More people want to move. You've got more people coming from overseas as well. So I think it's going to be a busy time in the rentals market. We've seen inflation come down. So it's around 8.6% now in the southeast. And before it was around sort of 9s, 10s. Well, we were talking about double inflation rates last year. So that seems to be easing as well. But you're still going to have the supply and demand in balance on things. So, it's going to be busy. There's going to be people that miss out. It's going to be a hectic time coming into these months in Q2. So, yeah, much of the same, really.
You're talking to quite a few more investors that are looking to become investors as well, new investors.
Yeah, so more people looking to go into property investing because they're working out financially and they're looking further on down the line in their life that property is a safe asset that they can use further on down the line. We've got current property investors looking to go down the HMO investing route now because they can see that the returns are a lot better than normal buy to let. So there's a few people I'm working with at the moment, just working out costings, trying to find that property as well that they can turn into a HMO. So yeah, a lot of conversations. Investors don't seem to be holding back. They seem to be pushing forward with their plans. So that's positive. I'll be worried if they were all holding back and not having those conversations with us and looking for property. But Q2 should be good.
Same as what Pete said on the HMO podcast, the other week as well. He was really positive about some of the opportunities that are out there at the moment. And we've had a lot of comments and feedback from that particular episode. Definitely want to check out if people haven't.
Absolutely.
But it does seem there's quite an appetite out there. We spoke to a couple of business owners earlier on today, didn't we, Mike? And one of the first things they said with their second business they're looking to start was, if we get 200 grand's worth of profit coming in on this business, in a year, don't need to take it. We've got our existing business, put that straight into property. It's the first thing they thought from an investment point of view. We've obviously been having conversations about sort of commercial investment as well. So I think there's a real appetite out there at the moment for it, which is interesting. What was your magic point that you wanted to put across? Your special point, Mike? You've had a couple of minutes to think about it?
Yeah, he's given me a moment. It's the housing market in general. So we're obviously based in the southeast, and we've had quite a few stats come through from esteemed colleagues such as Chris Watkin and so forth on LinkedIn, and other opinions are available. That generally speaking, we've had all of these predictions about house market crashes and this, that, and the other, but we're actually seeing a stable price over the last 12 months in our area. There are areas which have dropped as much as, wait for it, 4% in the UK, which, if that's the housing market crash that we're all waiting for, and some people are still predicting 2 years down the line, then, like you said, it's because of the appetite of people to invest money into property, and because people need somewhere to live in a country that has a growing population and a building problem.
Yeah.
So looking at our internal statistics, to give people an example, and we're not a huge agency, but we're also not inconsequential either. Our pipeline of sales is up pretty much 50% year on year in comparison to early 23, which was coming off the back of obviously a terrible budget and high interest rates. But we've seen a 50% increase in sales. So a total recovery higher than what we had in 2022. So anything that gets reported, just take it with a pinch of salt, is my piece on it, my take on it, because the hikes in interest rates are generally about 0.05%, which is the price of a bag of crisps. And the drops in house prices at the same time are probably what you're going to pay off your mortgage in a year.
Yeah.
So from an investor or a homeowner's point of view, it's so stable. It's probably the least remarkable market that I've ever worked in.
It's pretty comfortable at the moment with the buyer activity, the people looking to sell. You know where you stand with the mortgage rates. You know, at the moment they've not really changed. They drift up, drift down. Prices are, like you say, as stable and as normalized as you can see. And although we've dropped into recession, you know, try getting a Mother's Day table anywhere.
Yeah,
this
that's
weekend.
how I measure things. It's
Yeah,
like
I just seem-
Tuesdays, Wednesdays in the local town. And it's like
try getting a car parking space in the local pub on a Sunday. It's not going to happen. So people are just going about their day and going about their lives, and property in the UK is a huge place to kind of pin that foundation, really. So yeah, budget report, not a huge drastic difference. If there's landlords looking to exit now as a result of that 4% saving, obviously we're happy to have a chat on that basis. Talk to your accountant about how it sits for you, but give us a call, because sometimes if you've got a tenant in that property, we can find another landlord for you, and it's a smooth transaction for everyone involved, rather than kicking a tenant out and having some void periods. If you're now thinking, actually, I'm going to get stuck into some property investing, be it HMO from the episode before, or be it a new type of HMO, a new type of property investing, maybe not a furnished holiday let. That might be the only thing that you might not be interested in anymore.
It doesn't mean it doesn't work.
No,
the game have changed.
Yeah. I'm going to do one this year, to be fair, still, from an Airbnb holiday home, but for different reasons, really. That won't faze me.
Can't wait to see the location, because you've sent me some dodgy places over the last 12 months.
Yeah, Warfield. But yeah, we will be back next week, and thanks for checking in. Thanks for listening. If you've got thoughts on the budget, you've got thoughts on Mike's point about stabilised market, or you're one of the people that Andy mentioned that's really actively looking to invest at the moment, or you've got a fallout and you want to get that buy to let sold now that you're going to have a little bit of a tax saving, give us a shout. And of course, if you've got any thoughts on that let to buy stamp duty, and you've got a contact in the Parliament that you want us to put that blog to, then we're happy to oblige as well. We'll see you next week.